My soul, where are you? Do you hear me? That was how Jung began. Not with a theory and not with a lecture, but with an invocation. Alone in his study, he opened a red-bound book and dared to speak into the abyss. What came back were not ideas. They were visions, figures, voices that refused to be dismissed as just imagination. He filled page after page with calligraphy and painted mandalas, seals, sigils, scripture made from the raw material of the psyche. For decades this book was hidden, locked away like a forbidden grimoire, because to the outside world it looked like madness. To Jung, it was the most dangerous experiment of his life. And he called it active imagination. You think imagination is harmless? It isn't. Every billboard, every feed, every flashing logo plants images in your mind. Your brain doesn't argue with them. It obeys. It treats the image as real. That is the first possession. In old grimoires, the picture was the spirit. A seal on a page was an entity summoned into presence. Today, the same trick is everywhere. The golden arches, the glowing apple, the faces on your screen, sigils disguised as brands, memes that move through your nervous system like spells. Most people never notice. They live in passive fantasy, repeating images they didn't choose, dreaming someone else's dream. If you don't claim your imagination, it will be claimed for you. Between 1913 and 1916, Jung entered what he called his confrontation with the unconscious. It began with a plunge, a vision of falling into dark depths. Then images rising, caves, strangers, archetypes demanding his attention. He searched for a name for what he was doing. First the picture method, then visioning, then the transcendent function. At last he called it active imagination. It was not dreaming, not hypnosis, not idle fantasy. It was stepping consciously into the imaginal world and letting the unconscious speak back. Jung filled his black books with these dialogues, then transcribed them into the Great Red Book. Painted, inscribed, illuminated like a medieval grimoire. To him, this was no literary exercise. It was therapy, prophecy, initiation. He called it his most dangerous experiment, because once the voices appear, you cannot dismiss them as inventions. They are autonomous. They answer back. Why does it work? Because the brain does not mark imagination as unreal. It lights the same networks it uses for vision, hearing, touch. That's why a nightmare makes you sweat. Why mental rehearsal sharpens real performance. Imagination is perception turned inward. Active imagination takes that raw power and turns it into dialogue. The ego holds its ground. The unconscious throws up images that insist on being heard. stay with the clash. Long enough, and a third thing forms. What Jung called the transcendent function. A bridge between the two. The alchemists had another word for it. Conjunctio oppositorum, the marriage of opposites. Sun and moon, fire and water, fused to make something new. Magicians spoke of the astral plane. Chaos magicians speak of reprogramming reality through symbols. Neuroscience calls it predictive processing, expectation-bending perception. Different languages for the same forbidden fact. What you imagine reshapes what you expect, and what you expect becomes what you see. In those inner chambers, Jung met a figure, an old man with the wings of a kingfisher. He called himself Philemon. Jung did not control him. He spoke with his own voice, corrected Jung's ideas, taught him things Jung felt he could never have invented. Jung wrote, Philemon was to me what the Indians call a guru. This was the shock. The figures of active imagination are autonomous. They move, speak and act with a will of their own. To the psychologist, they are archetypes of the collective unconscious. To the magician, they are daemons. To the grimoire writer, they are spirits called forth and bound into the page. Jung's black books were his record of the dialogues. The Red Book, with its sigils, mandalas, and painted visions, was the pact, the scripture that sealed them. Philemon became Jung's inner teacher. Not a metaphor, not an allegory, but a companion from the deep. So how do you attempt it? The clearest guide comes from those who practiced after Jung, a fourfold right to enter the imaginal. Step 1, invitation. Empty the ego mind. Sit in silence, undisturbed. Choose a single image or a mood that haunts you. Wait for it to rise. This is opening the circle. Step 2, dialogue. Step into the scene. Speak to the figure. Ask questions. Record every word and image without censoring. Do not steer the current. Let it speak back. This is evocation. Step 3, values. Remember, these figures have no morals. They are raw archetypes. If one makes a demand that feels wrong, you can refuse. You bring the ethical stance, the boundary. In occult terms, this is binding the spirit. Step 4, ritual. When the dialogue ends, ground it. Draw the image, light a candle, take a walk in silence. Anchor it in the physical. But never confuse the inner with the outer. Never act it out on real people. This is the license to depart. 4 steps: invitation, dialogue, values, ritual. The fourfold right of active imagination. But be warned. Jung called this his most dangerous experiment. Robert Johnson cautioned, some people step in and cannot come back. The danger is possession. Becoming swallowed by the flow of images until you forget the outer world. Losing yourself in fantasy. In Jungian terms, it's inflation. The ego hijacked by an archetype, convinced it has become a god. In occult terms, it is what the grimoires warned of. Summon without boundaries, and the spirit takes control. That's why every operation must close with a ritual seal. A license to depart. A grounding act that restores you to ordinary time. Without it, you risk being ruled by the very forces you tried to confront. This is not a parlor trick. It is a descent. And if you don't hold the line, the abyss is more than happy to keep you. Active imagination does not only reveal personal scraps of memory, it opens onto the mythic. Figures rise that carry the weight of story. A wounded child asking for healing, a trickster laughing at your pride. A queen in chains, waiting to be freed. An artist starving for expression. Each one is an archetype. Timeless patterns that live beneath culture, race, and history. To engage them is to step into a living myth, a heroic descent, a shaman's journey to the underworld. Jung called it the mythopoeic imagination, the place where psyche creates gods and symbols. The occult tradition spoke of it as the astral realm, a world thick with diamonds and servitors, each figure autonomous, each one demanding recognition. And here is the revelation. These stories are not dead myths locked in books. They are alive in you. They speak through you. They shape your fate until you face them. Active imagination is the chamber where the archetypal dance continues. And the price of admission is courage. Every descent must end with a return. Jung closed his visions by painting mandalas, inscribing them in the Red Book like talismans. Each page was a seal, a way to contain the voices and anchor them in form. You must do the same. When the dialogue ends, give it shape. Write the words, sketch the figure, light a candle, walk in silence beneath the sky. Small acts that say to the unconscious, the rite is closed. This is your license to depart, your way of returning to the world intact. And here, you can seal it with us. If you dare to try active imagination, mark it below. Write the words, I spoke with the one within. That phrase will be our sigil, a communal seal, a proof that you entered the chamber and listened. The daemon is already waiting. The only question is whether you will answer. Until next time.